Welcome here, everyone, once again back to the Aftermath, the LPL recap, which will soon be transferring into the First Stand recap, but we'll get more into that a little bit later. As you can tell, we are doing this a little bit after the LPL Championship has concluded. We had some amazing series running through. Some people would say a couple upsets along the way, but everyone's saying it was a grand old time. I think it was amazing. My name is, of course, Orbital. I'll be your host. We have Ferris and Yanni, as Slayer unfortunately could not join us. We will have him on in the future, though, for a lot of fun because this has been an amazing time. Ferris, Yanni, how you two doing?
Doing pretty good, man.
Hey.
LPL, based on my predictions, and we'll talk about it later on. But dude, I took the L, bro. I was doing a lot of hate.
Bro,
The
put
people,
the L in LPL.
yeah, that's why there's two. That's why. So
Oh yeah, double
yeah.
double up on that. You have to make sure. Are you the type
You'll
that holds
find
up the
out soon.
fingers? Are you the type that holds up the fingers when you drive? Is that it?
No, but I maybe now. I might be.
We saw Ferris's Twitter a few times, and that was unfortunate. So,
Very unfortunate.
Yanni, how are you feeling?
You know what? I'm feeling pretty good. The Novocaine's starting to wear off. I had to go to the dentist today. But they did a great job. I'm feeling pretty good. I had a piece of steak before I got on. I was like, yep, all right, I can eat now. Great. So we're feeling good. We're feeling good about the LPL. We're feeling good about Tier 1 League of Legends esports. It's still great. It's still fun.
Yeah,
We feel good about Tier 1.
we always do, considering what we have seen in the lower tiers. Tier 2, Tier 3. We're just like,
We don't talk about that.
all right. Listen, we'll talk about that later if we ever decide to and want to subject ourselves to that torture. But at the current moment, we have 4 series on the docket here today. Of course, as we mentioned before, we were hoping to do the lower semis, the losers finals, as well as the winners finals. Unfortunately, there were some scheduling issues, so we ended up just taking care of the entire upper side of the bracket. It was the top 4 teams that were joining us in this entire matchup, and it was very, very fun, I think. There were some crazy storylines, I think, which started out with BLG versus Top Esports. And Ferris, this one setting you for a loop. You and I were discussing this a little bit before. This lower semifinals was interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, and honestly, the way this series started too, with BLG just rolling over Tess in game number 1, made me think that this was going to be the typical Top Esports roll over and die. The thing I've been waiting for the whole playoffs, the thing that I thought was going to happen against IG all the way back. And then all of a sudden, after the game 1 loss, they had like a Team Liquid spawn speech or something, and they're just the GOATs all of a sudden. It was like stomp for BLG, stomp for Top Esports. But the big kicker out of this series, though, and I also want to hear what you have to think about this too, Yanni, is the throw in game 3. The throw from BLG.
Already, Yanni's like, why would you bring that up?
No. I mean,
it has to happen. It has to be
listen, of course, bring it up. I like all these teams, right? So it's like, I'm not like, it's not like, oh, my favorite team through or something like that. No, it's just really frustrating that watching BLG this entire playoff run has just been frustrating. Like outside of the Weibo series, like this team is just looks really lost, and they're just not playing up to their standard. I mean, and it's not like this is a roster that had that much turnover, right? Like there's like almost no difference, right? Like everything, the way things were last year was pretty damn similar, right? I mean, like it literally is. Like nothing has changed.
They got reps with Way too in last year. They had points where they were putting Way over Shun. So I don't know what's gone wrong, but I can't believe. So they're up 10,000 gold, and Elder's coming up. All they have to do is, they have 5,000 gold ahead on Elk. Elk is playing Sivir. Jackie Love is playing Attack Speed Varus. And Elk is 4.5 items, 5,000 gold ahead. So literally all BLG have to do is just maybe take a chill pill, play at Elder. You cannot lose this game.
Oh, and by the way, Attack Speed Varus, like on hit Varus, so hard for him to play the game.
Yeah.
Like you're playing against Talia, who will outrange your auto attack range. You're playing against Lilia, who should never get hit by your auto attacks more than like twice. You go in, you hit the Q, and then you sprint away, and it's like, all right, Like, I don't know how I'm supposed to hit these guys. I'm only hitting Ben and On here, but I mean, like, and it was kind of hard for him to play. It's not like he had a strong finish or anything like that, but I mean, this should
It,
have
it,
been unlosable.
it was a miracle, bro. It was literally a miracle for top esports. They have like a Shyvana who's getting absolutely nothing there. It's just like a Shyvana out of left field in this
Yeah.
draft. It's like maybe if you pick Shyvana and you go poke Varus, you play a poke composition, maybe some picks with Poppy and Ari. But you have the Shyvana, you have the on hit Varus, you're getting absolutely crapped on. They just decide to sleep Jackie Love in the base. No one except for Ben is around. He's flashing to land this Q3. There is zero follow-up. Like, what is this call? Like, what are they doing? I have no idea what they tried to do. Like, the only way Top Esports could ever win that game is if that happened, and that's what BLG did. I can't believe it.
Yeah, and then even then in the last game, it's not like it was totally doomed here or anything like that. But I mean, the Kennen pick for 369 just is such a crazy good pick
Oh, yeah.
into the BLG comp. Right, it's in the Crisps, Renata too. Like, these picks are just so giga against BLG. Even Cream's Oriana. Right, you just have 3 melee champions, and Aatrox and Vi take damage. Like, so an Oriana Shockwave will still deal a decent bit to them. They just never had a shot based on comp in that last game, but they played all right. But really, TES just after that first game, and yeah, you could discount that third game, right? Because things weren't looking so good for them. I mean, game 2 and game 4, they won through draft in game 4, and in game 2 they won through just being better.
Yeah, it's a good point because they have the throw, but they still lose these games. They could have just come back and won the series 3-2, but they didn't. And the Nocturne Ori, like you said, so clean from Cream and Kanabi. They played a fantastic job. And honestly, yeah, I mean, back to what we said at the start, BLG just don't look themselves. There's something going on. Like, I don't know. Knight still looks really good. Knight is Knight. He's performing. I think Ben is still solid as well, but not at the level that Ben was in
It's hard to
previous
make an
years.
impact in this meta.
Yeah,
It's really hard for
exactly.
a top laner to make
That's a
an
good
impact
point.
in this meta. And I imagine this team, they're probably even saying to themselves like, "Oh, once lane swaps go away and stuff like that, and we're playing standard League of Legends, things will probably be fine."
They got to
still
pray
yet
on
to be
those. They got to pray
determined.
on those 15-5 changes, bro. That's been savior. Yeah, real talk.
I would like to also point out, I believe in the entire playoffs, I might be crazy for this, but this game 3, to add even more impact to it, was the only time I think we saw a negative gold lead for a team. So on a win. So Top Esports actually came out with a minus 2.7k deficit, or
Hard to do.
2.7k deficit. Sorry?
Hard to do.
Yeah, it definitely highlights the fact that things went south in
I
that
wonder how
game.
many games in like tier 1 league history have that moniker.
Probably
not a lot.
Not a lot. Yeah, absolutely.
There is a whole top 10
I wonder
list,
if that
and this
number
just
is
got
even
added to
double
it.
digits.
Ooh, I don't want to know that.
I would say probably just because of how many games have been played, but
Yeah, probably
in terms of like
I would
actual
be like less than
proportion,
20.
Yeah, it's just it is a wild stat. Again, 2.7 down means Top Esports kind of got away with daylight robbery, but at the same time, you got to be able to pick yourself up. BLG were unable to, which did mean that Top Esports were able to make it on into the losers finals at a 3-1 pace. Moving on from there, though, we had a series that a lot of people kind of lean into as pretty dang interesting. I mean, this could have been a grand final series in my opinion, with the length of time for the matches and just how back and forth it went. We are talking about JDG versus Anyone's Legend. This matchup 3-2 to Anyone's Legend.
Yeah, I think JGG fought really, really hard. I think they started to finally come together. I think that Missing, if you just stepped up a little bit, Missing had a pretty rough playoffs. Missing played a little bit better. We're talking about how JDG maybe lost to Top Esports because Top Esports looks like world leaders in the finals as opposed to, spoiler alert, in the lower finals. But I want to give a lot of credit to Anyone's Legend. This was really their first true test because they played against Thundertalk. I'm sorry. This is their first true test because they played against NIP.
Hmm.
And NIP was like, all right, they're a really good team, and they won 3 games to 2, and it's like, all right, you beat this pretty good team on a razor thin margin. I think it's pretty safe to say that JDG is confidently a better team than NIP. So it's like, all right, AL, like this is your opportunity to show that you belong. Thunder Talk had their opportunity and they couldn't do it. You're the other team that's coming on strong to start 2025, and they did. They did. It was a gutsy, gritty series. It wasn't perfect, but they ended up outlasting them, and maybe that's because they won that first game on red side, which is hard to do.
I think this game, or rather this series, showcased a lot of maybe some problems people have with fearless drafting. Because if you take games 4 and 5, for example, going into game number 4, I think it was a 2-1 lead for AL, and JDG ends up winning game 4. This AL draft is Camille, River Shen,
It's
Tristana, Ziggs, and Rel. And there's a vision here, flash taunt, you throw a Hextech ultimatum and go for it. But there was one play where they threw everything. It was like a flash taunt from Tarzan, and then it was like a hook shot from Flandre. Everything missed. It was like a whole avert your eyes horror story. I mean, this draft was just insane. It felt like there was no way they were going to win with that. And then the next game, now it's JDG's turn with the stinker draft. I mean, Kennen, Viego, Hui, Misfortune, Bard. It's just like there's a crazy world where the stars align, and you get a tempered fate, you get a bullet time. Shun's getting resets.
That's not
Paula
exactly
jumps in.
crazy.
Yeah, Shun gets in with the slicing maelstrom. But when you watch the game, they never get that. It's just so impossible for them to get. Oh, there's just no reliability there with that draft, and they made it close too. I think
Yeah.
JDG played really well, but there was no avenues with that draft to actually get onto Hope there on the Jinx. So I don't know. It's just like the drafts in those last couple games, I felt like more so than often than you normally see really kind of dictated those outcomes.
So real quick, I can kind of agree with the JDG comp, although I think the JDG comp itself is pretty okay. But I want to talk about the Anyone's Legend one first. This team comp that they have together with the Camille, the Rivershen, I think it's good. There's just one thing I don't like about it. I don't like the Rel in this composition because I think what this AL comp is trying to do is you are trying to just play 1-3-1 essentially, where Tarzan can at any point in time go ult a solo laner.
Yeah.
I would have liked a disengage support as opposed to Rel, which is can't really disengage. And then I think this could have worked, right? Because then Ziggs and your disengaged support can kind of play range. This allows Tarzan to stay back. You can essentially play like a 1-2-1, and they won't have vision on Tarzan. So it's like, all right, well, we don't know where he's at, if he's physically there to help a side lane or if he's going to TP, because you've got great power at busting down these turrets, right? You've got Camille, who's a strong side laner. You've got Tristana, who's a strong side laner and is a turret taker, as well as Ziggs, who's really good at taking turrets. I think that this is more of a JDG drafted a really, really strong composition. Their top side is so crazy this game with the Wukong, the Sejuani, and the Akali. Like, that is better than, like Sejuani melee top laner, like Sejuani Cassante and like Yone as an example. Like, this has so much more power to it. And then of course you've got Missing to be on his Rakan to be able to have a secondary engage, follow up. That goes really, really well with the Wukong ultimate. And then, of course, because all of these melee champions are going in and trying to cause problems, and they're able to start fights so easily, Pays can just kind of sit back and do his own thing. And the big thing is, the Wukong can side lane okay, and the Akali's a strong enough side laner that you can neutralize a little bit of what AL is trying to do. I just think that if AL had a little bit more disengage, maybe they get this to work, but they have to play it like near perfect. And they lost by they had a 12K gold deficit. The game only went 30 minutes, and they were down 16 kills to 3. They didn't exactly play it perfectly.
I would like, before we go further, I would like to point out that JDG, I think, had some amazing moments, and there's a reason it's this close, because in their victories in games 2 and 4, they were the cleanest games and the fastest games. out of the series as well. 28 minutes in game 2 by JDG, and then 30.5 minutes in game 4 as well. Draft or not, if you take a look at the series overall, it did feel like JDG, if they got that lead and if they had the opportunity, they could close out these games a little bit better than I would say. You're looking at Anyone's Legends, who, again, every game pretty much went above that 35-minute mark.
Yeah,
There's,
and
it seems like you have some thoughts on what I was talking about with the AL draft.
yeah,
Telling me that
no,
it's pretty bad.
I think I can definitely see the vision there. You actually have kind of opened my eyes a bit to actually what it could have done, but the problem was they
You gotta
I mean,
execute.
they lost. Yeah, they do have to execute, but they also lost before those side lanes could even become
Oh
a thing.
yeah,
They had
without
and
a
they had
doubt.
to fight. They had to fight these objectives, and a lot of times, they're going they just tried to go forward. They didn't try and peel back, and it all blew up in their face, and they couldn't get onto the Zeri. It just kind of felt. I guess I could see the vision. It just felt hard, like really hard,
Yeah,
like nothing to fall
this
back
is
on.
this is a
And
comp that like really wants
yeah,
grubs, and they only could secure 2. Like, it's tough.
yeah, and I guess I could say the same thing for the JDG comp, where it's like there's pretty good worlds where you can get good engages onto a Jinx, but honestly, my philosophy is if you playing into a Jinx and Jinx doesn't die once in the game, like
You messed up.
come on, yeah, you messed up. Like
That's a
how do you
draft
not kill
issue.
Jinx once? How do you not kill a Jinx
This
once? That
is
champion is so easy to kill.
as I heard in NACL OQs. This is a shoot your coach draft. It's pretty rough. I mean, I think the biggest thing is
We are not endorsing that,
Ale
but
has like a really
the
really
saying stands.
Ale's a really really good cannon, but
Yeah, he
like
is.
cannon doesn't work very well in this comp, right? There's not enough melees on their side for you to take advantage. And then you also are laning against, what ended up being a ranged champion, ended up being that Aurora, right?
Yeah.
So in the end, it's like AL navigated that part of the draft very well and ultimately neutralized that pick.
Yeah, and that going back to my original point, I don't know how much of Fearless is actually affecting this to the point where they're like, is JDG and AL at those points of the drafts kind of like, shit, we got to string something together here because like I don't know, or are they just like, yeah, this is gonna work, guys, trust me. Like, I don't know because again, I don't pick the brain. I'm not getting behind the scenes here with these teams. But I mean, I felt like that kind of could be a narrative that could have been said about that series. But either way, I mean, AL they clutched out. They got the game 5 win.
Yeah, I mean, we sit here, we always have hindsight 2020. We can go dive back and be like, yeah, that didn't work, but in the heat of the moment, hey, sometimes some of these surprise picks might work, but the upsides, downsides do not matter, as of course it was JDG that did fall in that series 3-2, and now they had to go ahead and drop down and face off against top esports, who are looking and as you can tell from the outcomes, the Cinderella story, I think, of this playoffs here. Going into that next matchup, JDG versus Top Esports, it was almost a carbon copy of their lower bracket semifinals coming out, a 3-1 scoreline. A little bit more back and forth this time around, but Top Esports still came out with the dub.
It was kind of a miracle. Well, yeah, Top Esports started strong in game number 1, and then like they had like the Shun, Otacon steal, JDG had some outplays. And like you said, Orbital, kind of like the same. It was like, okay, JDG gets a win. Like tests kind of looked like they're a bit shaky there. And then it flips on its head with these game 2s. And JDG, they didn't do anything in game 2. Like all their momentum was just killed. A 26-minute just absolute stomp. And Jackie Love and Kanavi are literally playing out of their minds at this point in the series. It's like with every series that Top Esports is playing, like I'm falling more and more in my chair, like to my knees, like I'm done for, bro. They're literally playing out of their mind. And every single series they started to play better. And it was like gradually game after game, it's like, dude, what I fear the most is coming to fruition here.
And the one thing I really like is that you finally got to see this out of a team where at one point in time, all 5 players on their team are firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
And even into the finals, which we'll get to in a second. I mean, everybody in this playoff run, from 369 to Kanavi to Cream to Jackie Love to Crisp, everybody had a game that was like, wow, they had a really impressive performance. And their run is super impressive too. They beat all your favorites, right? They beat IG, they beat NIP, they beat BLG, and in this series they beat JDG. Like, They're just absolutely murdering all of your favorite LPL players. And you know, I have to say, I was a little worried about Cream coming into this year. I think Cream's a really good mid laner, but I thought that Cream would need to really find the next gear in order for Top Esports to have success. And if the dude keeps playing like this, Top Esports is going to have a lot of success. I mean, you know, this guy's been really, really showing up.
Yeah, I was saying that. I was saying that a lot, and I have been saying this a lot on this podcast. I think Cream's 2024 was kind of okay compared to his. I mean,
It
more
was
so the
fine.
back end. It was okay compared to kind of like his breakout year on OMG in 2023, and I feel like he's slowly getting back and kind of surpassing that 2023 form. On top of the fact that Kanavi's playing like a beast, 369 had some good moments. Jackie Love probably had the best Ash game or the best 80 carry game in game number 3 that had 0 kills. You would
Yep.
think Jackie Love was doing absolutely nothing. You know, Kanavi just 1v9ing, just putting him in the backpack and saying, okay, we're going to finals. Like, no, Jackie Love was literally the GOAT with 0 kills on this Ash, absorbing all the pressure, kiting like a beast, like never dying. Like, oh my gosh, it was actually insane.
One of the rare times that we can sit there and say, don't look at the stats, please look at the actual game. Like, you have to go back and rewatch this. It is the epitome of why stats can be so tricky sometimes. A 0, 1, and 11, by the way. That is the score that we are talking about here. 0 kills, but high impact in that game. But got outskilled on the damage factor. I mean, Paze was trying to put in work on that Ziggs. But again, it felt like a carbon copy. There was nothing else there. And JDG, unfortunately, they fell in the winners finals, and the losers finals kind of crumbled under the pressure. And so we ended up with the grand finals.
Hang on.
Hang
on.
Ooh.
We got to talk about game 4, Jackie Love, too.
Yes,
Listen,
I know.
All right,
Ferris,
let's hit it.
I'm going to leave the floor to you so you can talk about, you can call him Jorky Love after this, bro.
Oh, gosh.
Dude, I mean, dude, he's insane actually
he's been playing
in
really,
this
really
series.
well.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
been playing so well.
Oh, yeah.
It's really funny too because we had that whole conversation in the Discord, the Salty
Yeah,
Runback
our
Discord
Salty Runback
about
Discord. Shout out
you know,
Salty Runback.
yeah, exactly. Shout
Yeah.
out Salty Runback. Jackie Love, we had a whole Jackie Love versus Viper debate. I know Hawk was really on the Jackie Love train. And honestly, Hawk was dead ass 1v9 in that argument.
Yeah.
Like everyone was like, dude, no, Jackie Love is not better than Viper. Like Jackie Love has been washed since 2020. Like he just hasn't hit that form.
I think saying Jackie Love is washed since 2020 is pretty crazy.
Not washed, but not at the level.
Yeah, we better not start putting words in other people's mouths here. This will bite us in the backside.
I'm not sure if I'd put Jackie Love like current top 3 or something like that. And Jackie Love is like, F the big 3. It's just big me right now. Like, he is going crazy.
He heard us. He heard me. Hey,
he really did. He really did. He said, "Fuck Ferris."
12-0-9, like he was making up for game 3. That's what it felt like right there.
That's why they call him Stacky Love. He stacks the paper.
Well, he does.
Yeah.
He does.
And
and honestly,
Paze was not stacking the paper on the Drake.
Speaking of stacking the paper, Jackie Love had almost 20k gold in game 1 of the finals. At 19.3k.
Wild stuff. But yeah, we got to get to that. We got to get to that grand finals because the grand finals again cemented Top Esports as the champions of the LPL. And in shelling out against a lot of people that were the naysayers, specifically
put some like confetti out, by the way.
I wish I could. Instead, I'll leave a tweet that I found from a very not enjoyer of Top Esports here. That all they did was tweet out, "Top Esports isn't winning the LPL. TES isn't winning the LPL," and it just went on for about, I think it was 1, 2, I would say about 7 times. It was very, very impressive.
I don't know who that could be.
Yeah, totally not. But that was if anyone wants to find out, that was a repost of a tweet that was on February 28th. So if you want to go check that out, go see who that was. You know, no names, of course, but it's still an amazing job by Tess. We have to give credit where credit is due, and it did also cement another interesting stat. Throughout the entire playoffs, they never went to a game 5. Every single series of theirs was a 3-1 victory all the way through from their losers bracket entry into the playoffs.
Really leaving no doubt, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, when you go 15-5 in 5 best of 5s, it's really, really impressive that not a single one went to a went to a fifth game. And, you could always say like, well, how come they didn't 3-0 anybody or anything like that? I mean, again, you take a look at the rosters of teams that they beat. These
Right.
rosters are incredible. Like the IG roster is the Shy, Jeja, Rookie, Gala, and Mako.
4 world
NIP's
champions.
roster, yeah. NIP's roster is arguably the weakest. It's Shanji, Aki, Doinbi, Leave, and PP God. Listen, Doinbi's a stud, regular season MVP, goat. Leave and PP God, insane bot lane this season. Shanji and Aki are good players. BLG, Binway Knight, Elkon, like they are killing these champions. They are king slaying everybody.
Yeah. I mean, they're on top for a reason. I mean, Ferris, I know you have to sit here and actually look at the screen and say, man, top actually won. But this entire grand finals still felt very under control from them as well. Was this anyone's legend kind of dropping the ball, or was this still like top just saying, yeah, we're going to crush the competition. Doesn't matter how good you play on the day.
I think it's a combination of both. Again, going back to my point of saying, I think with every series, Tess got better and better. It's literally the perfect playoff story. Like you have a semi-rough regular season. You lose to AL and Demacia Cup, which who cares about Demacia Cup realistically?
Yeah.
And then you lose to them in split one again. But then that narrative starts up where it's like, okay, they've beaten you twice now. Is Tess really going to be a contender here? Really statement series to win finally against AL. And they just played even better. Like Jackie Love's Misfortune, I'm going to keep glazing him, which is kind of weird because I was hating on him.
Go for it.
Jackie Love's Misfortune was the best Misfortune I saw like in 2025. Like the best single game of Misfortune is she's resurged in the meta. This guy, every single team fight, multi-person ultimates, just ripping everyone apart. The team fighting from Top Esports was good. AL bounced back with a really solid game. Again, maybe it's just the Rise buff. Rise is unbeatable in LPL apparently, and that's picked up there for Shanks, and it's just GG. But then the rest was
really well
good.
Too.
Yeah, and also going all the way back to the whole thing where I said about Pays gapping Hope in that series, that did not happen. Like Hope really stepped up. Yeah. I think Hope has also had a pretty breakout. Very underrated himself. Yeah,
very underrated AD carry because again we mentioned all of the big names. I mean, even an AD carry, China known for their AD carries, right? A name like Hope gets lost in the shuffle of all the big names that really catch your eye. But he has also had a really great 2025 to start for himself. So that's been really impressive. What was really crazy is how AL lost that last game.
Yes.
They were in such an advantageous position. Like, Kanavi was all up a little bit of gold on the Pantheon. Wasn't that big of a deal. Shanks was getting just free time to do whatever he wanted. Jackie Love was so far behind. Crisp was 3 levels behind. He was level 6 that Kale's level 9 at one point. And then they just somehow pull this game out of their ass because 3-6-9.
Yes.
Cassante is busted. We all know it, but it doesn't matter. If Cassante was piloted by anybody else that game, Top Esports does not win. Piloted by 3-6-9, he played a perfect game to be able to get his team back in it and secure it in 4.
Yeah, that hits the nail on the head. 3-6-9, pop off on the Cassante. You look at the team that Tess drafted, and mind you, they fell behind, like we were saying. It's Pantheon, it's Draven, it is Elite support. Like these champions.
This falls behind, you're dead. You lose.
It's GG. And it's like, how do they come back from this? And all of a sudden, 3-6-9 tanks for 10,000 years at the blue buff. There's a team fight at Top Esports blue buff. Jackie Love gets a triple kill, and all of a sudden, it's just like in their hands, and they run with it. And it's like AL just falls apart. They just can't recover. But their composition, Ornn, Maokai, Azir, Corki, Karma, they got Karma shields, they got ornaments, they got Corki Azir scaling, they have reliability with engage with Ornn and Maokai, and they lose to that composition. Yeah. I don't even know what to say. It was insane.
And what's really crazy is anyone's legend is really, really good at starting fights. They're just inherently very good at it. It's something they've been good at for most of the year. And if they see an opportunity to start a fight, they will take it. This should not have been losable for them with, as you mentioned, Maokai Ornn, like fight starting there, crazy. There are 4 champions on top esports that are short ranged with the Cassante, the Pantheon, the Draven, and the Elise. Shanks should be getting 3 mana Zeralts off. And, I think the biggest issue is that, as the game went on, Hope's effectiveness really waned after they lost that fight at the blue buff that you remarked, where 369 went off that fight. For as well as highly as we talked about Hope just a couple of moments ago, had a really, really bad fight. Poor positioning there resulted in the fight going poorly for AL. And Corki's kind of hard to play into that comp because they all have relatively similar effective range to you ever since they shifted a lot of Corki's power out of his rockets. Doesn't do as much with the rockets anymore, and they're more annoying poke than anything else. Once they do that, Corki becomes the short range carry again. And, every single time, if you tell me, hey, there's a 1v1 between a Corki and a Draven, I'm going to take the Draven every time.
Yeah. Especially after he got that gold injection there for Jackie Love. And
Yeah,
he has an impenetrable front
double
line.
or triple kill, I think, to get him back into the game, because he was down bad earlier. He was not looking very good earlier.
He was down like 1.7k at one point. And for like Draven, that's GG. Because
Bro was getting Jackie shoved.
Yeah, exactly. And there's moments when you're playing Draven where even if you're like 500 gold ahead, 1,000 gold ahead, if it's like past 30 minutes, you're playing against a Jinx or Corki. No, it's not enough. It's doomed. So to be down like that, I mean, again, Tess, I'm not going to say it's lucky, but they really have been able to show that they can come back from really unfortunate game states and against BLG, against anyone's legend in the grand final.
They will punish your mistakes.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with saying a team could not get a substantial proactive lead, which, I mean, they did. But again, fielding the fact that top esports were more in tune with punishing mistakes and making that mistake much more noticeable, I think is a trait for a championship team to have. I will always talk about it, of the fact of you have to learn how to punish mistakes. If you let mistakes go away, that's a lot of opportunity wasted. And if someone like Tess can pull that off, I think that should be applauded just as well. But give credit where credit is due. As you said, Tess being able to kind of pull out these victories. Unlike their previous series, though, this one was a little bit more fun. Obviously, game 1 went their way, game 2 went sideways, and then game 3 and 4 went theirs. I'm very curious, considering kind of the doubts we had with Tess throughout the earlier stages of the season. I love the fact that Ferris was pointing out, you were pointing out, hey, this team has improved every single series. By how far of a margin do you think they improved? Was this like, by miles, by kilometers, by absolute boundaries? Or was this just like, well, it's not so much that they were just coming into form that we were hoping to see before?
Well,
it's coming into form.
Yeah, it's coming into form for sure. Because you just look at the caliber of players that they have and what they have shown in the past. Like Kanavi on his whole stint with JDG for the longest time has been a top jungler in the LPL the whole time. We know what he can do. Jackie Love's peaks as a player. Cream when he was on OMG. And 369 being the consistent player he is, who's normally like really hard to knock down. He's always doing his job. I feel like, I don't know if you guys agree with this comparison. I kind of feel like 369 is like the Impact of China, sort of. He's just that guy. He's just always doing his job, and he's just a solid player all around. So like when all of them are hitting, and they were all hitting for the most part there, more so in the regular season. They coming into form, I think, is the perfect way to put it.
Yeah, 369 doesn't really live up to the meme anymore. Like, even when he's not playing at his best, he's still playing very, very well.
Yeah.
Like, he is still playing consistently well. He's no longer as like, oh, you rolled the 3, like, he's going to suck. Like, no, that just doesn't happen. I think a big reason for that is also because of the kind of champions that have started to come through ever since that meme got introduced, where it's like, it's much easier to lose gracefully on some champions and still look pretty good. So you don't really see the downturns of 369 anymore for what the current meta is.
Okay. Then would that branch over? Do we think this is the peak of what Tess has to offer? Or do we think that they're going to go further, considering First Stand is coming up in just a few days?
Well, I think the only thing really is their consistency from game to game, maybe, because again, take the BLG game for example, they got squashed. They've had a couple games where they've been squashed in those game 1s. The game against AL, the last game, like we were talking about, they were losing. So I guess it's more of a consistency thing. It's pretty hard to ask a team, though, even if you're talking about the best teams, to play game to game where you don't get situations where you fall behind, especially when you're playing against some of the best teams in the world. So I think for me, the only thing I can really ask of them is like game to game consistency. I think anything else might just be like a little bit outlandish or unrealistic. I don't know.
Okay, Yanni, would you agree with that?
Yeah, yeah, I think so too. We're just looking for consistency at this point. Mostly because I'm very big on okay, do it again, right? I want to see what top esports is going to look like in Split 2 because Split 2 they're going to the group system, right? So now they're playing within their groups. Obviously, not discounting first stand. First stand's very important, but we have to call a spade a spade. Out of the 5 teams here, top esports and Hollow Life are the highest quality teams, right? But Split 2 is really where I'm interested to see how they're going to play because now you're playing single round robin best of threes within your group. They're going to be in the top 8 group. It's essentially going to be the playoff teams from Split 1 versus the non-playoff teams, right? They still have to do split placements and everything like that. But that's really what's going to be very skill testing for these teams. And that's going to show you, in my opinion, who is like going to be the team that is going to put the league world on notice going into MSI probably because I think the top 8 of the LPL is extremely condensed. If you compare it to like the top 8 of like even the LCK, I still think the top 8 of the LPL is stronger from top to bottom. So I think that that's going to be the most competitive, and the team that comes out of that goes to MSI is going to be like, wow, this is an impressive team, and we're going to be talking about who the world's winner is. So I'm reserving my judgment until then, but I think TES looking very, very strong. Certainly a good contender to win Split 2 off that and look like the best team potentially.
Well, of course, and I mean they're gonna have a chance to not only prove that, of course, with first stand, but with further on, which I am excited for all the way through. You alluded to it, but we will go ahead and chat a little bit about first stand as that is coming up in just a few days. All of the major regions have gone ahead and concluded: Korea as well as China, the Americas, and then of course the EMEA, and then the APAC region as well. All have their respective
APAC!
champions. Yes, everyone is going to be coming in here having a bit of fun. You talked about it. The Korean first place team, Hanwha Life, coming in here was very interesting watching them, and of course top esports. But we got to talk about the other regions here, starting with the Americas. Team Liquid.
I love Team Liquid.
Yeah.
So you guys know because you play League with me. My icon is the season 3 Curse icon. Curse became Team Liquid.
Yeah.
They hold a very special place in my heart. They're going to first stand. That's it. That's all I have to say. They're going. They will certainly be there.
Yeah, they'll be there. And to kind of like allude to
I
like,
can definitively say they're a top 5 team at first stand.
yeah, they are. Yes, they are. I think the biggest advantage, and okay, I can't say anything really about the Pacific, Asia Pacific team, Flying Oysters, because I just didn't watch that league. I don't know much about the team.
Same.
I think for the LEC with Carmine Corp coming in, which
That
is
is
super
awesome.
exciting, by the way.
That
it's not
is so
G2.
cool.
They
They
at
look
least
great, by the way.
They do,
Yeah.
and at least as far as the LTA goes, there was a lot of complaints about the format. A lot of people weren't hyped about the little amount of games that were played. Just compare the amount of games TL got in compared to someone like Tess, someone like Hanwha Life, who literally
Oh my
went
God.
5 games in every single one of their playoff matches against T1, against Gen G, against Dom1, against Gen G again. Like the amount of reps that these players are getting is absolutely absurd in comparison to TL. And I think on top of that, even if we were at like an even standpoint, you would still obviously have HLE and Test over a team like TL and Carmine Corp. So I think when we talk about TL, it's like, there's just such a discrepancy in terms of how much practice these teams have been getting, like actually on stage in real games. Is that going to have an effect, or is it just going to be like a whole hands check? Like, I don't know.
And the metas are so different too. Like, I mean,
Yep.
Skarner's getting through left and right in the Americas, and meanwhile in China, this thing is always getting banned. I wonder if we're just going to see a world where Team Liquid just doesn't ban Skarner, and like top esports just goes, okay, we'll take him,
Yeah.
and just run over the game with him. Everybody's saying Skarner is bad. I don't necessarily agree. I think Skarner is still really, really good in a like high level team environment because of what that champion can do.
Yep.
Just being able to go through walls and suppress at least even 2 members, even if they're not like the carries. Like, okay, I have removed the protection of the carries. Go kill the carries.
Yep.
Or I have gotten the carries. We win. Woo! Like it's just that's how incredibly powerful that champion is. But taking a look at the participants, I am ready to just do my top to bottom what I think is going to happen.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that
I don't know
soon. We'll get to that soon.
like,
but there
I'm
was
ready. No,
there-
I'm ready.
I know you are, but
Ah.
there was a funny story about the APAC side of things. So CTBC Flying Oyster had one of the stories, I think, with the naming scheme, and we just have to talk about this because we got to give love over to the APAC region. We have to give love over there. I mean, this is a region that has notoriously fought to be where they want to be every single time, and bringing, you know, there are jokes being made, and of course with 5 regions now, it's always interesting to kind of take a look and see, you know, are they going to upset, are they going to have fun? And unfortunately, we here on the desk do not have the most information, so obviously I will refrain from saying if they're going to be good or bad, but granted, we have to make
Real
know
quick.
those, of course.
Yeah, I just want to talk about Flying Oyster for a second. Just having a look, they did beat Talon.
Ooh.
Talon, a couple of names you might recognize on that team. Karsa in the jungle, Fofo in the mid lane, Betty at 80 carry. Like
People
so
that have played in the
these are guys
LPL.
that-
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. These are guys that have been around the block a little bit. Have as you said, played in the LPL. Very very high quality players, and Flying Oysters able to get the job done. They got Doggo. You remember everybody
Oh,
remembers Doggo.
yes.
Doggo was
Very good player.
was big for a hot minute. For BLG, everybody
Yeah.
thought he was next up, and he still might be. This is going to be a good opportunity for him. Really excited for that. Junjia as well from Edward Gaming, formerly, is the jungler for that squad. So, they got some good players. I think it's really impressive that they were able to defeat Talon, especially since Talon was the first seed coming in. But yeah, we're really good stuff. Got to give the Flying Oyster some credit. They definitely did not have a super easy route because they're an APAC region. Like, no, they deserve some respect.
Right.
I worry about like Team Liquid, particularly.
No, like actually though.
But there was a story about the Flying Oyster's name that Yanni, you pointed this out. And
Yes.
I think it has to be said here just for the fun of it.
Yes, absolutely, dude. We love the Flying Oyster. So the Flying Oysters, a very interesting naming convention. So CTBC, the bank, I'm just ripping this straight from the Leaguepedia, so you can go fact check this if you want. They own the Flying Oysters, and their slogan is "We are family." But the pronunciation of Flying Oyster in Chinese sounds very very similar to saying family. It's family. Just like, that's great. That's perfect.
That's the lore, dude. That's the lore we needed to know.
Yes.
That's the type of shit you need to like get behind the Oysters, bro.
Yeah,
on
that's
top
how
of-
they're gonna. Honestly, they win the lore war. I mean, that gives them
Yeah.
the edge over
Yeah.
TL. That makes Carmine Corp sweat a little bit. Like
Well, Carmine Corp's got the whole wave of fans behind them. I think
Yeah.
they got
but the wave of fans can't show up. There's not enough seats.
That's true. Yeah, no.
They're gonna try their
actually, though.
hardest. They're gonna try their
They're
hardest
gonna try.
outside
They're
of the
gonna try to
stadium.
They're gonna try and digitally overwhelm us, but
Hey.
yeah, I can't really
Yeah.
do it.
Twitch chat about to be crazy.
Oh
No, yeah,
gosh.
for
All
real.
right. So let's dive into this because I am very interested. I think obviously both Harris and Yanni had their thoughts here with regards to who is coming out, at least in the group stage. And as we mentioned, it is going to be, I believe, 2 stages. It is going to be single round robin. Matches are best of 3 only, and then the top 4 go ahead and make their way through. With that in mind, I give the option to both of you to either pick full standings, 1 through 5, or just say who is going to be falling out here and not making it through stage 1. Because of course, with these matches, it can be interesting and tough one way or another. Maybe one team doesn't show up as well, and some others are like, dang, this is going to be a good matchup.
I think it's tough. I think it's tough to do. Well, I'm going to go ahead and just say CFO will probably be the team that's out. They could take a game off Team Liquid. They could beat Carmine Corp. Like we've seen it happen. Minor region teams have taken games off of major region teams all the time. But I have to have the faith that TL is going to show up. I have to have the faith in my region at the very least. I don't, and I think Casey has the hitters to really be
You are a bold
team that
man
isn't
for
going to be
that.
taken down. I know. But I gotta believe. I gotta believe in NA. It's crazy. At least to beat the minor region teams, like I think they'll do it. I think CFO will go out. as for if TL is going to place ahead of someone like KC, I don't know. Low key, I think I really like the KC took down the Titans
AC
of
looks
the
a lot
LEC
stronger than
in,
TL.
in, in G2. Yeah. So
3-0.
I think if I'm going
By
to
the
do
way,
my
3-0.
rankings, it's really easy. It's really easy to just say. I mean, the top side too. Test versus On Life. I think On Life is just a little bit better. They look insane. They got like the king of internationals, at least. Well, and maybe not. First Stand is a new international here, so I guess it's kind of dangerous calling Xavius the king of internationals because he's
True.
his MSI performances with T1 have been shaky. But I'm going to say HLE, Tess, Carmine Corp, TL, and then the Flying Oysters.
All right, I like that. Here's what I got for you. So mine's gonna be a little bit different.
All right.
So I think that it's going to be from top to bottom. It's going to be, I think Top Esports are actually going to win. He's going to be top. Then
Okay.
Hanwha Life, Carmine Corp, Team Liquid, and Flying Oyster. Now, I am going to say that I think Flying Oyster has a better chance of beating Team Liquid than I think Hanwha does of beating Top Esports. Now, that's not, now I'm not trying to say that Hanwha is like much worse than Top, because they're not. But I think the matchup like is that close between Team Liquid and Flying Oyster. The only reason why I'm saying that I think Top is going to beat out Hanwha is because I can't get behind the LCK Cup when the teams, it's very clearly not 100% knows the grindstone serious, whereas I believe Split 1 in the LPL absolutely was. And just with that, I think that Hanwha's not going to have the sharpest edge. Even though they finished, first out of it, even though they looked really, really good, I don't think they're going to have the sharpest edge. I think Top Esports is going to come in like razor sharp because of the differences in seriousness for this first split. But I also think like something like that will change for the future, and eventually, the Korean teams like probably next year will be like, you know what, we'll take First Stand seriously or something like that.
But why do you think again that the LCK Cup is less serious than
Bro,
Split 1?
Bro, the games don't even count, apparently. Which is crazy.
I mean, I still feel like whether they're taking it seriously or not, I still feel like, they still looks like they were trying.
I mean, yeah, like it still looks like they're absolutely trying and everything like that, because I don't think any pro player is ever going to go on stage and not like actively try or anything like that. Like that, don't get me wrong, but I don't know. It feels unserious. So it just goes off of a feel type thing, which obviously is not like, the end all be all. It's not like, oh yeah, this feels different. So, this clearly means that it actually it means something, right? But I don't know. It just feels like TS just went through and absolutely demolished their side of things, whereas Hanwha 3-2'd everybody. Literally everybody. Razor thin margins. 3-2 over T1. 3-2 over Genji. 3-2 over D plus Kia. 3-2 over Genji again. Like, eventually you're going to lose out on these margins.
I do feel, though, as if the competition in, like, the top 8, I agree with you on the fact that top 8 LPL 100% better than top 8 in the LCK. That's just because also the LPL just has more teams to offer. So those bottom tier LPL teams are just shoved way down in the standings. They have 16 teams. But the top 4, like, D plus, Kia, Genji, Hanwha Life, T1, they are honestly just as good or better. Especially with the way like the form that BLG and JDG kind of showed. They were a little bit shaky, especially so BLG. I feel like Genji really had, or not Genji, sorry, Hanwha Life really had to go through the ringer in those series.
Yeah. I don't disagree.
And I think their opponents were honestly, just as difficult. I haven't read the whole thing about, the unseriousness of LCK Cup. Maybe that's just me being like naive about it. But I honestly think I'm just a little bit
maybe
higher
I'm reading too much
Life.
into it.
Yeah, could be.
Like, it could be both. It could be both.
Yeah.
There's so much to think about, and that's kind of the fun of these international tournaments. And I think that's actually what a lot of us were hoping for. At the same time, we wanted to see more international tournaments. We wanted to see more competition between the regions specifically for this reason as well. I mean, that's the whole reason why we were like, hey, bring back, the inter-regional duels that we had before. I think that were, I think it was like NA versus EU at one point, as well as I think it was LCK versus LPL or something like that. They had those head-to-heads cross, which was very fun.
Rift battles, I think you're talking about.
Yes, that was it. But it's just, to me, it's fun to see another international tournament come about. They are actively trying to get every region in, and that also means that we do get to have answers to these questions, such as, is it going to be a draft diff? Are these localized draft scenarios going to have an impact, or are we going to see the hands check, which I think is very, very valid. And then, of course, to see if our region disappoints us, as all three of us here are just like, all right,
We love NA.
Yeah,
We're at the point where we always have to acknowledge it, just because of how often it's like
How
we
often it
had
happens.
high hopes and then we were heartbroken.
I hope you know, Ferris, when you said I'm going to have hope in Team Liquid, both Yanni and I had death in our eyes, and we were like, bro, we've been disappointed one too many times. So we'll leave you to the hope. We'll have reality on our end. How's that sound?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've also had some pretty good showings. I mean, we had like the NRG versus G2 thing in 2023. We had FlyQuest last year.
FlyQuest last year. Even we had TL at EWC. TL at EWC looked quite good.
Just stop.
Almost beat T1.
Stop getting my hopes up. Listen, stop getting my hopes up. I gotta have reality, or else my heart can't take it anymore. Okay, so
facts.
We'll leave it as is. But granted, I do agree. We are going to be very interested to see how the first stand goes. Now, if you're tuning into the Aftermath here, we'll be turning to the Aftermath first stand, or whatever you wish to call it, because we will be trying to cover a lot of these matches as well, whether with the same cast here or with others from the other regions as well. Once again, there are 5 major regions here, and I think every region deserves to have a little bit of a voice here on the desk just as well. So, with that being said, though, thank you so much for tuning in to the Aftermath LPL Recap, Episode 5, where we covered a lot of the LPL playoff action and also crowned Top Esports the winner. Thank you so much to everyone who tuned in. My name is Ordo. With me is Ferris as well as Ziani. If you want to follow us on the socials, please go ahead and do so, because we are all over the place, and we're excited to see even more League of Legends in the future. We'll see y'all next time.